Hi, BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and I'm going to do a disappointing reads video of 2020. By the way, sorry I'm kind of far away, but I can't use my usual stand I put my computer on because my mom painted it for me, so she still recommends I wait until at least until this afternoon to at least until noon to be able to use it. Okay, so no, normally I don't really do these kinds of videos because I usually like the books I read. I mean, there are some books that are like and maybe I could talk about those in these kinds of videos. I mean, I will probably never do a worst books of the year video because there's never been any books that I've been passionately hated. The closest I came to that was probably when we first moved here, and Red Rain, I felt really strong dislike for that one. I mean, I felt a little bad because I grew up with that author, and it was by R.L. Stine, and I grew up reading his books, or at least more watching the show than reading the books. Because when I was younger, it was just easier, like I was more into watching the show, watching a movie or a show, than reading a book. Even though I loved books then, it was just easier to just turn on the TV or something. But I did not like that book. I couldn't stand it. It felt like a Lifetime movie horror film. But I felt, I grew up with that author, and it was his first adult novel, so I was trying to give him a little leeway, but I did not like that book. I came very close to hating that book. So as usual, I don't have a lot. And as I was going through my Goodreads list to see what books I would want to talk about, there were some on here that I'm thinking maybe I should talk about them. And then some but then at the same time I felt like, but wasn't, maybe not, I mean, it wasn't, but then these are more like but then again, this is also the disappointed read, so it's not like I'm saying these books are bad, I'm just saying that I wasn't satisfied with them. And I was looking at my Goodreads, when you go to the Goodreads challenge of the previous years, and they show a list of all the books you read. Well, I just noticed on my list has all of a sudden changed the order. I don't know why. It is like reversed order or something, or like everything's mixed up. Like the books that are at the bottom are now in the middle, and the books that I read later in the year, it's like reversed. Either that or like I can't tell if it's just reversed or if it's mixed up. Because like I said, some of the books that are at the bottom they're not on the very top. They're in the middle. And then some of the books that I didn't read towards the end of the year, but I read in the middle of the year, they're now at the bottom, as if I read them first. It's really weird. I don't know how that happened. But I'm still looking at it. That's why my eyes keep moving over to a little bit farther to the left. Because the screen is up so I can look at it. So let's get started. Okay, so, well, first, let me just go and talk about the one that I'm staring at right now that I do actually have it, but I was debating about showing it to you guys. So, well, it will only take a second. Let me get it. Okay, so I actually have something to show you guys. Okay, so the first one I was disappointed, but it's not a bad book. And it's just probably not my kind of book. And maybe this is the case of I read the author's most famous work and was blown away by it or really just loved it. And then the rest of their work could potentially be disappointing to me because I don't know, it's a weird phenomenon. The whole idea of you love this author's one work, but then everything else can't compare to it. And I'm worried that's what's going to happen, because so far, reading his other work, it's just been kind of unsatisfying. Although I like the short stories. I think the short stories are good, but I am going to talk about one of the short stories that is on this list. And that is Fitzgerald. F. Scott Fitzgerald is the author. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about Tender is the Night. I was debating about talking about this because, like I said, it's not a bad book. And maybe I'm missing something. And I do feel bad considering what inspired the book and the plot. Like, this is very personal for Fitzgerald because he was inspired by his own marriage in this one. But I was just, it was like kind of, like not, it was not satisfying. Like, I probably won't read it again. I mean, I'm glad I read it. I'm not, but it just wasn't, I was like, I don't know what I was expecting. But we have kind of two point of views in the story. We have first this woman she's, I don't know, I can't remember what she was, or she was just, let me see. Oh, okay, she's an actress. And it's, she goes to the French Riviera to spend the summer. It's in the 1920s, of course. And it's been a while since I read it, so I'm kind of having to refresh my memory. And she has this very weird relationship with this married couple, and she's fascinated and obsessed with them, and she like has an affair with the husband, I believe, if I remember correctly. But it turns out that the wife has a lot of mental health issues. Oh, and that's right, the husband, Dick Diver, is kind of her doctor and her husband. So a little bit of conflict of interest there. And it's about him struggling with dealing with that. And separating himself, trying to separate doctor from husband role. And I think he struggles with that. So, I just, like I said, it doesn't do it for me. I was kind of, again, I don't know what I wanted from it. But it just didn't, and it could have just been very much bad timing. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it. Although I'm sure my mom probably I was playing, when she was painting in my room, painting my new shelf and stuff, and I was playing the videos, because I just like to watch them, obviously, and I didn't want to wear the earbuds in my head because they kind of irritate my ears after a while, so I just was watching it while she's in here, and she kind of was commenting. I'm not going to say who I'm talking about because I don't want that person, if they happen to be watching me, then I don't want them to be, like, have feelings hurt or offended or anything, but I think my mom was kind of like, was this person worried about offending the author? Because she was her response to the book was, she didn't love it, but she didn't hate it either. And, she just thought it was and it was like, it was not for her. And it could, so I feel, I'm wondering if my mom would be like, oh, you're just being too nice about this book. Maybe you don't want to, although it doesn't matter because F. Scott Fitzgerald is dead anyway, but I did tell her, I think it at times can be more about not wanting to hurt other fans who love this, because sometimes we can get, and I say we because I know I can get very sensitive, and that's putting it nicely. I can get very sensitive. That I'm thinking more that it's more not wanting to assure the fans of that work that this is just how I feel, but it's not a criticism on you. And deep down somewhere in my brain, I know that it's just like, if it's something that I love, again, I feel a little protective of it, and almost and a part of me feels like you're questioning that I like the book. But I mean, like, again, I know at the end of the day that's not the case. But anyway, so I was just like, unsatisfied with it. But I don't know what more I wanted from it. And I also feel a little bad because I feel like it was personal. This is one of his more personal works. But it wasn't a terrible book, other people might like it. I just didn't, and I'm probably not going to read it again. So it has been put in the donation pile. Okay, so let me go ahead and talk about the other Fitzgerald work. That's the short story that is in this collection, and that's The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. I finally read the story that inspired the movie, and I gotta say, I probably should have read the story first before I saw the movie. But at the time, it was like, yeah, I was interested in Fitzgerald's work, but I hadn't bothered to, collect his works or anything. But, so this is basically the same plot as the movie, almost the same plot, where you have this male is born like an old man when he's born, and he ages backwards. So they have that basic plot point. But in this one, like first in the movie, his parents kind of abandon him and leave on the doorstep, and he's taken by Taraji P. Henson's character, takes him in and raises him as her own son. And, like he does, in the short story, he does, fall in love and get married. And they do have a kid. They have a son. But the differences in the short story are that only his mom dies, I think, giving birth to him. And his dad at first is a little like, is this a joke? What the heck's going on? And he doesn't want to take him, but then the nurse are like, this is your kid, whether you like it or not, you're going to take him and raise him. And it was very funny, their introduction, because he's so, old man Benjamin is so snarky towards him. He has the mental state of an old man. He's not a baby. He's fully developed. So it's like he develops backwards, just as he ages backwards. And unfortunately, and it's these two, like an old man and a middle-aged man, being like going back and forth with each other. So it's funny, it's very amusing. And he takes him home and kind of raises him, and they have a very thwart relationship, but it's not terrible. It's not a horrible relationship. It's not it's not too, it's kind of just, like watching a tennis match with these two. And then he does fall in love, and his wife, I don't know why the name Catherine came into my head, so maybe her name is Catherine. She falls in love with him and is charmed by him being so mature for his age, of seeming so much wiser. Of course, that doesn't last long because, again, he ages backwards. And both his wife and the eventual son they have kind of resent him a little bit that he ages backwards. And they're kind of like and what really annoyed me about this is that they were acting like he could control it. They were acting like it was his fault, and how dare he age backwards. Like it was his fault that he ages backwards. This is something that happened to him that he cannot control. He doesn't understand it himself. And they're just they resent him for it, which I understand, like watching this person get younger and younger while you get older and older. Or trying to, this person is supposed to be your dad, and this person's actually your father, and starts turning into a teenager, and having to explain to people, or having to be like, coming up with some lie, and be like, oh, he's my older brother or something, and then eventually saying, oh, he's my younger brother, like, I get that it would be kind of annoying and frustrating, but at the same time, you can't take out your anger on the person that this is happening to, unless they purposely did this to themselves. Like if they were like a wizard or a sorcerer and they were able to do this to themselves. But Benjamin is a normal guy. I mean, it's in the real 1920s, wherever it takes place. I can't remember. So he cannot control this, and they respond to him like he can, like, how dare he do this to us? And it's like, no, it is not his fault. He cannot control it. And it just really annoyed me. That wasn't the problem. I mean, it was more, I was just disappointed because I was expecting what was in the movie, and I didn't get what was in the movie in the short story. In the movie, I liked how he meets the woman who swam the English Channel, who's, very famous in history. I liked that, and he ends up having an affair with her. I like that storyline. Now, the job he has in that when he encounters her, I think he does get that job in the book, but he doesn't encounter her in the, I shouldn't say book, short story. But they don't have that, and maybe it's because it's a short story. But I was just I wanted more from the story. That's why I was disappointed, because I wanted more, and I wasn't getting it. And I wanted what was in the movie, and I wasn't getting it. And, I mean, Fitzgerald's writing is beautiful. I love his writing, and the concept itself, I still love it, and I like I said, I was amused at times by it, especially that when we first meet, when Benjamin and his dad first meet. That was really funny, but the rest of it was just, it's kind of like, okay, where's the rest of it? I was expecting to be at least at the shortest, be like, the length of, The Great Gatsby. I was expecting to be that length, and it wasn't. So it was just I was unsatisfied with it. I wanted more from the story, and, I wanted what was in the, now, I get that when it comes to movies, Hollywood, like, not only for the sake of time, but sometimes they have to change something, because Hollywood has this, this thing where they do more heartfelt and romanticized end stories, which, they do darker, grittier stories, but sometimes I think romanticized stories work better in Hollywood, and I don't think, and yeah, we roll our eyes and we, like, see it silly and stuff and think it's a bad influence on us and everything. At the end of the day, I think a lot of us people still love that stuff, still want to see a romanticized story, whether it's an actual rom-com or something like this. Well, with authors, they can get away with darker, edgier stories, I think. And eventually, luckily for all of these authors, authors like Fitzgerald, Hemingway, J.D. Salinger, their work is going to be, they have no way of knowing this, of course, but, these works become popular later in life. Everyone loves them later in life, and so they can get away with making darker, edgier stories, while Hollywood has this whole romanticized view of things. So I understand why they changed the story a little bit. And I do prefer that the story in the movie, than the story in the book. But like I said, there were aspects of it that were amusing, and I'm glad I read it, because it was nice to say that I've actually read the original source material. But again, I wanted what the movie gave me, and this short story did not give me that. Okay, let's see. So also, see if I can do this without making the, let me see, I'm gonna go through these. Let me go through these and see if there's any more I could talk about that I don't have, Nope. Okay, some of the ones that were DNFs and stuff, it was more that I just, it wasn't disappointment, it was just I kind of lost interest, like, Gentleman Moscow, and it didn't help that it was a library book. In a way, which I'm gonna say it, Lord of the Rings disappointed me kind of, because everyone talks about how great and I agree, like, Tolkien is the grandfather of fantasy and is great and all, but again, it's just like the curious case with Benjamin Button. I had to remind myself that this is not the movie, so it kind of counts as a disappointment, but it kind of doesn't, because it's like, I knew it wasn't going to be exactly like the movie, but at the same time, I was just like, listening to it, it's just like, oh, this is good and all, but it's not, for me, it's not wow. It's not, so maybe it's more, so I debate about it, because it's like, maybe it's just more me than, maybe it's not fair. I mean, a lot of fantasy fans will probably say, yeah, it's you. It's not the book. It's not Lord of the Rings. How dare we insult Lord of the Rings? But that's not, I mean, maybe if I grew up reading the books, then maybe I would feel differently, but I didn't grow up with Lord of the Rings. I mean, yeah, the movies came out in the 90s, at the end of the 90s, but I was probably a preteen when the movies came out, or early teens. And, I'm spoiled by the movies. That's the same thing that happened with Benjamin Button, and let's see. Comic books, I don't know if I want to put these on here because, like I said, I hope that Larissa has forgotten that she promised to send me some Marvel comics, because I don't know if I'm going to ever read them, because I'm just not, I mean, part of me wants to check them out because they're the original source material, but and Terry, again, I'm going to, if you're watching this, I'm going to try and remember to read the rest, because I have read ElfQuest, just not all of it. I'm going to try and remember to read ElfQuest. It's just, I don't feel inspired to read it at the moment. And that's, which I'm almost wholly, feel like, oh, I'm going to read it, but then another voice in my head says, no, you should just get rid of it, but then Terry spent the money and got it for me. So, and it's a volume, so it's like, on the one hand, I feel like I should read it because she bought it for me, and I want to prove to her that I will read the graphic novel, which I have read it. Again, I've read up to a certain point, and the other thing is, I keep thinking that she doesn't believe me when I say I actually read it, or I have to keep reminding, because it's been a long time since we talked about it together. And I feel like I'm going to have to tell her, because she's still not going to believe me when I say I've read a chunk of the ElfQuest graphic novel volume 1. But as far as, it's like, I'm used to, the comics, the movies, again, I'm spoiled by the movies for the third time, and it's like, the graphic novels are just, they're, looking at the pictures and reading the dialogue, or like a little brief description at the top. And it's just like, oh, this is okay, I mean, it's not as cool as the one I read was Volume 4, War of Riddle and Jokes, or something, or War of Jokes and Riddles. I can't remember what it is. It's a cool concept, and it's one of these things where I would be really more interested if I had read if it became like a movie or a TV show or something. I'm trying to go through my list and see which one of these I was kind of like, oh, And some of these are also just, I moved on from the work, and I was just trying to see if I could get into it again. Like, I read Dan Brown's Origin, or listened to in an audiobook, and it was just like, it was cool and everything. I mean, I still thought it was cool, but I don't feel the desire to, read any more of Dan Brown's books anytime soon. These DNF'd that series, but that's not a disappointment. That was more of a, when I read too much of a type of thing that isn't normally my thing. I'm talking about the Hangman's Daughter series. By the way, it is really cool. If you like mystery, historical mystery, you would probably like it. So I won't say that was a disappointment. It's just I lost, it was just a little too much of that one genre. Because Rachel, that was kind of, again, that's the only one we're going. No, I haven't actually watched the movie. I haven't even seen the Hitchcock one yet. When I say the movie, I was referring to the Rachel Weisz. And, oh wait, no, I think Hitchcock only did Rebecca. The movie with Rachel Weisz and, I can't remember the actor's name. He was the guy in Me Before You, and then he played the priest in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, the one with the mermaids, are sirens. I don't know if they're mermaids or sirens. And then he also played Finnick Odair in Hunger Games. I cannot remember his name, but he's in that one. And the book was kind of, for me personally, it was just like, I still prefer Rebecca. You know, it was like, you know, it was okay. I mean, I don't know, but the thing is, I don't know if I would say it's on a disappointment, because it was just like, it's still pretty good. It was just, I didn't love it. Like, still was like, I prefer Rebecca. Rebecca's more interesting plot to me. But although I, like, again, maybe it's not really a disappointment. It was just, I was expecting something more exciting. Okay, I already talked about Benjamin Button. Franny and Zooey. I don't know if I can put that one on the list, because I should have known that I wouldn't love that one either, because a couple years ago, I reread Catcher in the Rye, and it was just like, I did not like it. There was only one aspect of the book of that novel that I liked, which is the relationship between the main character and his sister. So I should have known I wouldn't like that one, just as I didn't like rereading Catcher in the Rye. And it kind of, like, really, I mean, it's more like, if I had a worst books list, that would probably be close to being on there, because I just couldn't stand the characters, and, well, maybe it wouldn't be worst book. I see, this part of my problem is I still don't know what my limits are and what I would define as a worst book, or what I would define as a good book, or as a disappointing book, and what would be the best. That's part of the problem. I can't seem to figure that out, because part of me is like thinking, well, it's not a bad book, it's just not a book for me. You know, I mean, can I really, because I feel like if I put it on my worst books list, then I'm saying it's a bad book. And it's not necessarily a bad book, it's just not my kind of book. You know, but then that's more along the lines of trying to be objective about it, and I don't think anyone can be really objective about their worst or disappointing reads. I mean, that's why a lot of people are like, I don't like putting a disclaimer, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I know how people can be on the internet, which that's the difference between me, is I don't actually say anything. I might think it in my head or rant about it with my friends, but I will never actually say anything directly to that person, because I'm a chicken. I'm not stupid. I'm not gonna get mad, because at the end of the day, I do know that it's not a personal thing. It's just, or it's personal for them, but it's not personal as in against me. But it's Franny and Zooey was just kind of, the characters irritated me, and they're very similar to Holden Caulfield in personality, very pretentious, and I like pretentious characters normally, but you know, it's more, I like the more snobby, rich, pretentious characters rather than the ones that are like, you know, they're not rich, and they think, you know, and they think they're better, and they're more down to earth and stuff, and everyone else is full of crap, and everyone's a phony, as Holden Caulfield would say. That makes me kind of roll my eyes. And then what really pissed me off about Franny and Zooey is how they treated their mom. Like, I probably could do with more respect towards my mom. And, you know, maybe my mom could do more respect to her own mother. But, with that being said, we are not as bad as these two characters. I mean, they call her mom by their first name. They act like she's some silly, dotty old woman who's really annoying and so protective. But, you know, how dare she want to protect them? I mean, yeah, like, this morning my mom was plucking my brows, and I hate it when she does that, because, although hate's a strong word, because it kind of hurts a little bit when she pulls using the little tweezers and stuff like that, and I'm like twitching and pulling away, and it makes it harder for her to do it, because it's just annoying, and sometimes, you know, she notices these little things, like, she'll point at my hair, it looks greasy, I need to wash, and then I feel like, oh great, now I have to go wash my hair now, and, you know, so there are things that annoy me, but I have more respect than these two have for their mom, and I don't think I wouldn't call her by her first name or act like, you know, these kids were just so mean. They were just plain mean to their mom, and it just like, smack them and be like, this is the woman who gave you life. She's the reason you exist. She has taken care of you. She's given you food and shelter, and she has kissed every boo-boo you've had. She's, she's been there. She probably supports everything you do, or almost everything. There's probably things that she doesn't support. And she takes care of you, and all you feel is contempt for her. And it's just like, I couldn't stand them, and but the writing is good. Again, the writing, I like the writing. I like J.G. Salinger's writing style. And I got through that one along with Catcher in the Rye really quickly when I reread that one. Okay, so Brave New World, I don't know if I can really count that one, because that was more of a, I ended up DNFing it pretty early on in the story. I didn't get very far in the story. I probably didn't even get to 100 pages before I was like, yeah, I'm bored with this. This was one of the books that we had to read in high school, and of course I read it then, but then reading it now, and there's no pressure, there's no grade if I don't finish it, and I was kind of bored with it, all the sciencey talk and stuff. That's why too much sciencey talk, that's why it's debatable if I'm never about me in a sci-fi, because I like lower sci-fi that's even close to fantasy. Adult House, that one I need to reread. That one, I don't know how I feel about that one yet, Adult House. But the time it was just like, it was just okay. Okay, before This Night Paradise, another Fitzgerald. Again, this is, I'm worried that nothing else is going to compare to The Great Gatsby, because I'm one of those people who loves The Great Gatsby. Although I was watching, I can't remember her channel name. I just know that she's Scottish. She was talking about, she kind of was like, here's a, controversial opinion, but Great Gatsby's not that great. Kind of comment, and I was like, yeah, well, guess what? I disagree with you. I think it is. The Great Gatsby is as great as it is in titles implies. But, so I've loved that one, but again, it's another situation. I'm worried, what if I love that one, but everything else can't compare to The Great Gatsby? So, This Side of Paradise, The Last Tycoon I liked. That was the other one that I read, Fitzgerald work I read. But, This Side of Paradise was, it was kind of interesting, hearing our main character's thoughts. But again, I was like, again, and, although I was unsatisfied with This Side of Paradise, but in This Side of Paradise, not This Side of Paradise, I was also unsatisfied with The Last Tycoon, but that one, I feel like I can't really put this on that list, because it's incomplete. It's an incomplete novel. Fitzgerald never got to finish it, because sadly he had passed away before he could finish it. So that one, I feel like I can't really say that one's, I can't put that one on there. I feel like I can't put that one on the list fairly, because it's incomplete anyway. And it's such potential to be great. A good, interesting story. So, both This Side of Paradise and Last Tycoon are kind of on here and kind of not. See, this is why I don't do these kinds of videos, because I have such, I'm never settled on anything. Let me see if there's any more on here before I get to... I'm kind of disappointed that I just can't get into Sherlock Holmes. I like the movies and TV shows. Again, I think it's because I'm spoiled by by on-screen adaptations of it. Because books, you're using your own imagination, unless it's a picture book. You're using your own imagination, so it's sometimes when I read older books, I'm forgetting I'm not going to get what's in the movie necessarily. I'm not going to get and the movie is live action and someone has brought something to life so you can hear, you're not just relying on your imagination, it's already created for you so you can hear everything and see it all, and it's tangible, it's all around you, and so it's easier to get into. Oh, okay, let me go. Pamela was kind of annoying. I DNF'd that one. I couldn't stand it. And it was kind of boring. If I'm gonna read a book about, that sort of is considered romantic. I have to like the character, the romance, the couple. And I did not like it. I found it very annoying. Basically, this woman's mistress has passed away, so her son takes over, is running things, and he's all into this girl, Pamela, but she's like, I want to get married first. I don't want to go, I'm not going to have, I'm very moral. I'm a very strong moral person. And she keeps trying to talk to her parents, and at first they don't believe her because apparently, he would never do that because he's rich and handsome, and he would never cross that line because he's a good boy, because he's part of the upper class. Upper class would never do that. And he keeps trying to pursue her, and I believe he finally gets the message. He finally realizes, you mean it when you say you want to get married first. It's like, you think? And of course that was from looking up anything else. Okay, well, Far From the Maddening Crowd. I was hoping I would still have that, but I think I just recently got rid of the Far From the Maddening Crowd. Gave it to the Black Castle Bookshop. I was hoping I didn't, but I already did, so I don't have it to show you guys, my copy to show you guys. But Far From the Maddening Crowd, I was so bored. I did not like Bathsheba as a main character. She was a hypocrite. She was incredibly stubborn. And basically, I'm just annoyed that she was a hypocrite and acting like she is such a great character. And yeah, at first I was like, yeah, go for it. You are running your own farm and stuff. But like, there's this scene where she's like, I can't remember what it was. It was the crops or the animals. Something was infected or something. And the first guy who was all into her, because it's like these three guys all want to marry her, but she's not interested in any of them. Or one of them she's more interested in than the other two. And she's like, because he kind of criticizes her, so she's like, she fires him because of it, which, like, really? That's real mature of you. And she fires him, and then this thing happens that I think it's either the animals are sick, or the crops are dying or something. And she's like, and actually, I think it was an animal, one of her animals. Like a cow or a pig or something. And Gabriel, the first guy, is the only one who could save the animal. And because she fired him, she doesn't want to admit she's wrong. And because of her pride, she doesn't want to depend on him. She's like, no, I'm not going to get his help. And he is the only person, according to her other employees, he's the only person capable of doing this thing. And none of them can do it. And they don't know anyone else who can. She's like, well, there's got to be somebody other than Gabriel, and it's like because of her stupid pride and stubbornness, and she's wasting time and putting her animals at risk, and she doesn't want to, all because of pride, she doesn't want to ask for his help, and it's like, are you kidding me? Let go of shove your pride just for a minute, and just go to this guy. And she can't even, at first she doesn't even, he's like, I want you to apologize or anything. It's just they're so annoyed with them all. And you're putting your animals in danger all because of stupid pride and not wanting to depend on this person. And it's like, just shove it and just go and do what needs to be done. Your priority should be your land. You're a farmer now. And then on top of that, like I said, she's, on top of being very prideful, she's also, like I said in the beginning, she's a hypocrite. Because like, she was all like, I'm not going to get married. She rejects both Gabriel Oakes and this one other guy, who I'll talk about that in a minute. But then this soldier who's charming and charismatic and really attractive, and she runs away to meet him, falls madly in love with him, and then all of a sudden, now she wants to get married. And I think she does marry him, because I looked it up, and she does marry the guy. And it's like, are you kidding me? You were all rejecting those two other guys, which, okay, fine, you're not interested, but not only are you not interested, but you said you didn't want to get married. And yet you marry the handsome soldier because he's charming and knows how to sweep you off your feet. Really? Are you kidding me? So, seriously. So this guy, because he's handsome and charming and a soldier and knows how to say the right thing, all of a sudden now you want to get married. And of course, I think what I read is it bites her in the butt later. I didn't think that was going to happen. I didn't think she would actually go through with marrying this guy. I figured, she would be tempted to marry him. but then, or they would date for a while. Like, it would be kind of like a Pride and Prejudice where Elizabeth is seduced by, what's his name? I can't remember his name. I can't think of it. It's gonna pop in my head after I finish filming, but she's seduced by that one guy, and she ends up, before she even agrees to, marry him, he ends up running away with her sister. And of course, she's stuck with the guy. Although there's that mystery novel that I used to have that I ended up putting in the donation pile because it was a crime thriller, and I just heard some not so positive opinions of it, and I don't want to, I don't want to be. And I know a lot of people would say, "Oh, you should read it anyway, before you decide you should decide for yourself." But sometimes there's books that I don't want to waste. I don't want to waste any time, and this is not just about like numbers and stuff like that. It's more just I don't want to waste, time on a book that I'm not going to like, or it's a 50-50 chance if I'm going to like it or not. So, but it's a murder mystery, and this guy gets, someone tries to murder him. And of course, he survives. But at least, like, Elizabeth didn't even come close to marrying this guy. I mean, she liked him or even flirted with him, but I don't think she ever married him. She was never going to marry him. And, but if she even marries the soldier, I'm just like, really? You said you were not going to get married, you weren't interested in marriage, but the right guy comes along, and it's like, now you're going to get married. And I feel like it sends a wrong message. I would say that, there's always the one guy, and the charming, handsome guy who, of course, it ends up biting her butt later, so maybe the message is like, don't marry the first guy that you think you're in love with. So that annoyed me, and then and then the other thing is with the other guy, Farmer Woldwood. And she decides to mess with him a little bit and send him a little Valentine, because he's all like also about not getting married, and he doesn't need a wife or anything. He's perfectly fine. He's kind of grumpy, and she decides to send him a message, a Valentine, be mine kind of thing. And it's like, and you expect him to get that it's a joke. You expect him to realize that this is the joke. Although he's one of the more interesting guys between the other two, because he is so, like, his moods are so all over. He can, on the one hand, he can be very stoic and serious, then on the other, he can be so passionate and emotional, and he gets, and he's just all, like, very emotional. It's like, I love you, Bathsheba, you said you love me, and it's like, she's like, no, I didn't, that was just a joke, and she expects him to realize it's a joke. She was messing with him. She expects him to yell hunky, like, oh, ha ha ha, that's so funny. It's like, no, not everybody's gonna. It's like, why would you do that? What was the point of that? Just for fun? Just to have fun? It's like, you're gonna mess with him, and, like, I never understood why she did that. What was the point of it? I mean, I guess the point was to get the other guy into the picture and get him to be interested in her as well and fall in love with her, but what was the point for the character to send him that Valentine? That was mean, I think. She's just, I can't stand her character. Like, I have no problem with unlikable characters. Like, Scarlett O'Hara is mean and selfish and cruel to her sisters and everything, and cruel to men, but I'm still engaged in the story of Gone with the Wind. I was still intrigued. I definitely want to reread that again at some point. It's a long book. It's a big commitment. Like, I can understand where Terry and I tried to buddy read it, and it was like, I can understand where she, as someone who's not, I know that Terry doesn't read as much as I do, and, she's probably not used to reading a 1,000-page novel, so I was like, and even I took like a whole year or longer to read it. I'm slowly working up this year. I want to take steps into getting through a book that length in a year, at least. Longer than a year. Not just, I started in 1 year and then 5 years later I decided to pick it up again. I don't want to do that anymore. So, although I recently just finished a 600-page novel, a little over 600 pages. So I was very happy about that. And then the next book in this particular series is like a little over a bit over 800. It was like, oh wow. But anyway, so yeah, I did not like that. Oh Pioneers was another one that was like, it was okay, but it was kind of unsatisfying. And then let me see, okay, well that's it. Oh, and I guess now this one, I think this one also has already been donated, but Romance in Marseille. I get that it was the early books with a representation of a disabled person, and like I think there was queer rep in it as well. Although I'm not sure about who was queer in the story, because I mean, and I don't know how other people feel about that. And I would be kind of interested to see if other people liked it, or other people are going to point out stuff that I didn't think about until after they pointed it out. But I was, again, it's another one I was unsatisfied with. You know, I was expecting more from this book. And granted, I saw there was a short book, so I was like, oh, it's not that long. You know, at least I can get through it quickly. And but I expected more character, more variety of characters in the story, and it just mostly focused on our main character and his love interest, and maybe a few other characters that we're trying to get between them. But other than that, I was expecting, with the description on the back, I was expecting more character perspectives, and I was not getting that. That's what disappointed me, is we didn't have a lot of character perspectives. And like I said, I don't know who was supposed to be queer in the story, because I think it said that there was supposed to be queer rep in this. And I think I know who was queer and who's supposed to be queer in the story, but I don't know. Granted, I'm not saying that has to spell it out for me, but at the same time, it's not like at least give that character a significant other or something. Show them with someone, and I mean, maybe they did, I just missed it. Like, I think I knew who the queer characters were in the story, but I was just caught off guard with, but it was more like, okay, which ones are these? Are these the queer characters or not? And again, I was expecting more different kinds of perspective in the story, like a saga, but then I should have known better, because it's not that long of a book, so of course it didn't have everything I wanted. And really why I bought it was because it was the 1920s, and it was a little different than my usual reads, so it was just, again, another book I was unsatisfied by. And then, excuse me. Okay, those two was more, I just lost interest after a while because they were too long. Okay, let's talk about another really big story that I was disappointed in. That is, this will probably be the last one I'm going to talk about, because that is Dr. Jekyll and Mr Hyde by Robert Louis Stephens and Other Strange Tales. And I'm keeping this book because I want to read the other Strange Tales. But now, this is one of those cases where I haven't seen other adaptations of it, unless you count Mary Riley, which is about a woman who worked for Dr. Jekyll, and her perspective on the situation, and her discomfort being caught between the two gentlemen, because I think she was in love with Jekyll, but then Hyde kind of was constantly, if I remember correctly, he was harassing her, and constantly he was all into her, but she was scared of him. And then, both the Van Helsing movie starring Hugh Jackman, and then the Extraordinary Gentleman series introduced the character. Like, although he was more involved in Extraordinary Gentleman because he was one of the main cast, that character, and then while in Van Helsing, the movie starts with Van Helsing capturing Mr. Hyde, and it results in him getting killed. And that kind of shows his reputation of someone that, does help people, but he has a reputation of getting innocent people killed in the process, so people do not like Van Helsing. But guess Van Helsing would have taken place on the timeline before Dracula. The Bram Stoker novel. I just like it introduces why they're encountered, how they know each other, and why he knows so much about Dracula. But anyway, but this suffered from limited perspective. We only get the perspective of, we get a little bit of the butler, so I was hoping that would help it, because he's on the inside looking in. I mean, he's on the inside, but then you also get a colleague of Jekyll's, and I think his doctor, and they only get brief glimpses of Hyde. They know something's up, but they don't know the full story, which maybe that makes it a little scarier. But this is also a short story. This is not that long. So I was just unsatisfied. I was like, okay, that's all we're getting? It's not even that scary to me, but of course I'm a 21st century viewer and reader, so I've seen, like, scarier stuff. I've been exposed because we have the technology and the skills to do it. Now, older movies, like movies like Nosferatu and stuff like that, they can make that scary, but this was not scary to me. Like, it was a bit of a mystery, but that's it. It was more like an intriguing mystery. But I wanted more. I wanted to actually maybe get inside of Jekyll's house and watch his experiments. Maybe even get like a diary, or a journal from Jekyll, and maybe even Hyde gets his own perspective, and maybe that's what I want, or like more of the butler and his experience with it. Although there were times I think he might have got fired, or he wasn't exactly on the inside looking in. Where Mary Riley was in that one, I think she was on the inside looking in, which I think that's a book. By the way, I think the movie was based on a book, and that's probably why, because this one is so like all you know is something's going on. And they have a brief encounter, like run into Hyde, but then he runs away, and they know someone's been attacked or murdered or whatever, and you might see the body, but that's it. You don't really get anything else. You don't see the transformation. That's what I want. I want to see the transformation. I want to see how Jekyll's reacting to this, and see him slowly go crazy and not get like hints of it, and not be told, oh yeah, this is happening, or I want to actually see it happening. And we just get so limited perspective on it, and I just feel like we should have got someone, either Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde themselves, or someone on the inside, like the butler, get his side of the story. And also, it was too short in my opinion. I wanted more of a story, a lot longer. I think that particular story, and I don't know about the other Strange Tales, but that one I feel like it needed more story. And I feel like it was a mistake to just make it from the perspective of outsiders. Because then you don't get any of the juicy details or the action or anything. And maybe at the time when Stevenson wrote it, maybe he was thinking, oh, this is mysterious because these are, people on the outside looking in. But, there's only so much that they see. And at the end of the day, maybe it would have been considered mysterious by them, but now I don't want them. If that's the only way to give me a mystery, then I don't want the mystery. I want the monster story, or the psychological thriller story, or whatever, like where the character is dealing with his alter ego or something, or someone on the outside watching this person fall apart, like in Mary Riley, and. Although I'm not 100% sure if that's based on a book or not. I think it is, though. I would want to read that book, now that I've read the original source material. And the reason why I'm keeping it is because I want to read the other stories before I decide to get rid of it. And also, it's partly because I have Treasure Island and I plan to reread it, and I almost feel like I want to have more than one Robert Louis Stevenson book under my belt. But yeah, this is probably my biggest disappointment, even more disappointing than, I don't know, maybe it was about 50-50 with, this one versus Curious Case of Benjamin Button, because they were both, like, older classics that I feel like you should read them. I mean, that they're probably recommended to read. when you want to get in the classics, and to me, this was unsatisfying. I wanted more from the story, and I didn't get what I wanted from it. Um, so I think that's it. Sorry, it's not as thorough, or, as some people's worst, disappointed reads or worst books. But that's the best I can do. Maybe I'll do better in 2020, 21. Maybe I'll do better at that one coming up with. But I usually try to avoid books that, the only way I'm going to get to books is that I'm disappointed or are the worst is either if they're library books and I'm just trying out audiobooks from Libby, which I guess is the library as well. Or there's some books that I bought that when I first bought them, I'm all excited about them. But what I'm going to do is probably, which brings me to, I'm going to go through my books and read one book a month that is like, I'm not sure about it yet, but I did spend the money on it. Probably spend more money than I should have on it. Okay, so, like I said, again, sorry, it's not as good as some other people who just worse and disappointing books, but that's the best I can do. So maybe I can do better in 2021. Okay, if you like this video, be sure to give a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, click the bell notification below to see when I post new videos. Always wear your mask because we're not done with this virus, sadly. Wash your hands as well. They do say that if you sing the happy birthday song twice, then that will be thorough enough. Although I don't follow that. I just, try to scrub. Although my mom says, like, she knows that a lot of people in the hospital, what they'll do is that they'll, like, scrub each individual finger as well to get the soap in the nails and stuff. And be kind. And enjoy your reading, of course. Bye.